Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 16 of the Railcraft server Let's Play. Currently still without Vexados, unfortunately. But we are going to continue setting up the generator, because I want to get it running as soon as possible, because as you can see, we are a bit low on power. I'm not entirely sure what is using the power. However, oh, it might be this. Let's turn that off. No, still something using power. And I'm overheating. I don't know where the power is going. No clue. Might need to make an EU reader and try to find out at some point or later on, but I'm probably not going to do that while recording. So we need to set up the output for the generator, and then we are also going to set up the fuel input, which is going to require a couple of sorting machines. So it's slightly tricky because we have 3 input points, and ideally we want to divide the fuel evenly between these points. So up here I have prepared a couple of sorting machines which have been sitting here for quite a while. These are going to need power, but we can worry about that in a bit. They are tier 2, so they cannot be powered by this line. They need at least one. They need at least one transformer to work. So we're going to put them here. I think this is tier 2 as well. Or tier 3, actually. So, the sorting machine, of course, uses electricity to sort items out the various faces. And we can see that this way is north, that's south, and that is west. Now, I'm not entirely sure where the input is going to be. That doesn't really matter. So we want 3, if we input 3 coal pieces, we want 1 to go to each of these. The sorting machine will split items evenly, as it can, if it receives a stack of more than 1 at a time. Now, this is not going to do anything because we don't have power at the moment. But if I were to... So we have down, which is also set as the default route. We can remove that. And then we have east and west as well. So these 2. And that's not what I want at all. I want 1 in each. So if I were to input 3 coal pieces like this, and if this machine had power, it would send 1 down, 1 west, and 1 east. Which is fine. However, if I were to put in 3 coal pieces separately like this, it would look at this one, and it would see that it doesn't have enough to send to each inventory, or each side. So it would send to the first one. I think that would be the down one, since that is at the top, but I'm not sure. Then once it's done that, it will go to the next stack, and it will do the same thing again. So it would send 1 to the same place that the last one went, and then it would do that again. So we would end up with 3 coal pieces in one of these, say this one, which is not what we want. So we want to make sure that this sorting machine only receives these in groups of 3. And that is what the second sorting machine is for. So we have the down path, which is the only output at the moment. And we're going to take 3 coal pieces and put them in the filter there. Now, because we have specified that we want 3 here, it is only going to send coal down when it has 3 or more. So if we put in 2 here, they would sit and wait until a third one comes along, and then it would send this stack of 3 down into this sorting machine. This would receive 3 coal pieces in a stack at a time, or at once, and it would send 1 to each output. So this allows us to distribute any fuel input into this generator setup evenly between these 3 fireboxes, which ensures that this will run as quickly as possible. We could have it just input them, fill one up first, then overflow into the other ones, and potentially a 4th one here, which we might install at a later time, because we have a south side here for this. But then it would not run as quickly as it could all the time. Say we input half a stack, it would put half a stack of coal in here, and then this would have to burn through that entire stack instead of dividing the work between these. So that is why we have this. We'll probably put a hopper on top of there as an input later on. These have quite a huge buffer as well, of course, which is fine. Now we need to sort out the output of the waste here, which would be hot spring water. Now I have a theory with how we can do that. I'm not entirely sure if that is going to work, but I guess we'll try. So we go down here, get rid of, oh dear, I had a little bit of a lag spike there. Actually, I don't need to get rid of those. What I need is to get this, like so. So these pipes are not Buildcraft pipes. They do not work even remotely similar to how Buildcraft pipes work. What they do is they take in fluid and they basically teleport it to the output. Let's demonstrate that quickly. So let's imagine that this is a tank of fluid. It is an item voider, actually, which is not what I need, I realize. This would connect to this if this was a tank. And then we pretend that these 3 are output tanks that are currently empty. If we power this pipe indirectly via this block, it would pull fluid from the closest connected, or any connected tank, which is currently only this one. If there was a tank here as well, it would pull from both of them. Now, if all of these tanks are empty, the pipes are going to split the input between these tanks. So we'd get a third of the fluid in here, a third in here, and a third in here, assuming they are separate tanks, or even if they weren't, I'm pretty sure. If one of these tanks, say the middle one, had a different fluid in it, which is not the same as the fluid we are inputting from this tank, it would not be able to output the fluid into this tank. So it would split the fluid between the 2 empty tanks then. Now, if I were to have another tank, say over here, let's pretend there's a tank here. We power this pipe with redstone. It will input, and there's a different fluid in this pipe. It would pull that fluid into this network, except not really, because remember, it just teleports the fluid to a valid output. What would probably happen is if we turn both of these on at the same time, and we had one fluid in here and a different fluid in here, it would try to split them between these tanks. Now, one of these tanks would get one fluid, and the other two would get another fluid, perhaps. Now, I'm not sure what exactly would happen if you did that. If all the tanks would get the same fluid first, and then the other fluid wouldn't have anywhere to go, so nothing would happen to it. That would take some experimentation. Whoops. Dug out a little too much of the floor there. What happened to the... Okay, they go in there. Let's get the fluid null block, which should be up in the smithy here. This is the one I want. The other one down here, like I said, is an item null, which is not useful. Let's get my lever as well. So what I think I'll be able to do is if I put the fluid null here and connect a pipe to it, and then I power this block with redstone, it should pull from the output here into this pipe network. Now, this fluid unloader, I think it might be voiding water now. Let's turn that off. Oh, yes. It is. Okay. Right. I hadn't considered that. So that actually won't work. Because it's outputting, it's taking water from the fluid unloader and puts it into the fluid, or the null, which we don't want. So that is actually not going to work. That's slightly unfortunate, because I was hoping to avoid putting a block on top of there. Because like I hinted at earlier, we might have wanted to use that to put another firebox for some extra capacity, or some extra speed rather, later on. But I guess what we'll have to do is put the null on top of here. Like that. Now, unfortunately, we can't, because the pipes are full blocks, we can't access the Stirling generator when that is there. So I guess that will have to do. We can't really check the status of the tanks inside of the block. I don't really think we have a way of doing that anyway, because I could put the null right on top and then put a fluid ejector in that, but that would also block access to the block for us. So I guess, whoops. I guess this is the way it will have to be, which is all right. Not ideal, but all right. Let's get this thing running. So, like I said, it's going to need power. Now, we do have a power cable right here, actually, which should be tier 2 power. We need some copper cables for that, though. I'm pretty sure I put rubber somewhere. Oh, there it is. I have it in my inventory. So let's take these plates I made and cut them into cables or wires, and then isolate them into cables. Oh, these are called cables as well. I thought the uninsulated ones were called wires. Maybe that got changed. Or maybe I'm just misremembering. All right. We are low on power. Dear. I still don't know what's consuming all this power. So none of those are hooked up. It's not... Oh, is the... No, that's turned off. This shouldn't be doing anything. That's strange. I guess it has to be... But this is turned off. Shouldn't be using any power. Well, it's still being consumed. There's to be something that is draining. This shouldn't be doing anything either. This is not doing anything. This is very odd. That's not running. That's not running. That's receiving some power. That's off. It's off. It's off. This shouldn't be doing anything. Is it? No, still losing power. That weird. It's not been doing that before. I'm baffled. Actually baffled as to what is using this power. Oh, there we go. So it was this thing. That's strange. I might have to put a splitter cable on that so you can cut it off properly then. That might be a bug, that it's endlessly consuming power. Although I'm going to need this, so let's cut it off there. So you need to hook these up. Like so. And hopefully they won't explode. They are receiving power. Good. So... Oh. Right, there was some coal in there already, so it's started... doing stuff? Oh, is this not on? No, that's... Let's put that there then. No? Is it not? That's slightly weird. I'm out of room. Dang it. Let's throw out some bones from there. Put the arrows in there because they are more useful. We should be able to get some of this out. So you can see that it is indeed running. But as soon as it is... As soon as the output fills up, it stops. Kind of... It's weird that that isn't working. Let's take a stone brick, put that there, put the lever on there, fluid nullifier there. No? Can it not pull out of that? Guess that would be the issue. So I guess we're going to have to go with the fluid ejector method then, which is not ideal. I mean, I kind of hope that I wouldn't have to go that route. Although mainly because of the material cost. But I guess I have no choice. Now we have some hot spring water. I actually need 3 of those for a piston. There. And we need some molten tin for 4 plates. That will allow us to make a fluid ejector upgrade. Oh wait. Oh no, it was a motor, wasn't it? Dang it. The fluid ejector is slightly more complicated. Yes, it is an electric motor, not a piston. So unfortunately then we need to make one of those, which actually also requires some tin. Should have a spot open there. Let's switch that out for the screwdriver because I don't really need that. That is the screwdriver from Super Circuit Maker. So we need 2 tin item casings, which we can put in here for now. And then we need 14 copper cables, uninsulated. It's going to take a bunch of copper, which fortunately we already have smelted. So let's get that. And we actually need 16, but as you saw, I already have 2 in the table there. And we are out of power. Did the wind turbine break? No. Okay, it is gaining power back. Slow. Which is why I wanted the upgraded generator to begin with. We also need 3 iron ingots, which I should have as well. That should be plenty. All right, I already had molten iron on me. Oh well. At least we're not perpetually losing power for nothing now that the rolling machine has been disconnected. That gets us the motor, and that will get us the fluid ejector upgrade. Finally, now we still need this, and hopefully we'll be able to output now. So we want the top side, put that in there, and then put that on top of there. We can't. Okay, now it is working. Now these have stored heat inside, which they are outputting, and there they ran out. Okay, so now if I'm overheating, okay, let's such a mess, my inventory. Let's take a bit of water, put that in a hole here, and use that to cool down a little bit. So what we want to do now is hook up the level detection system. As you can see, I have a comparator there still. Pretty sure I showed that in the last, or indicated that in the last episode. And in case you don't remember, it has a super circuit maker timer next to it, which is pulsing the comparator because the battery block doesn't update it on its own still, which has been a problem since 1.7 because I had the same issue in my private server Let's Play. And we're going to use the level output by the MFE there to turn off the inputs by powering the hopper ducts, which will, similarly to hoppers, when they are powered, they stop transferring items. Whoops, I fell down my hole. So basically, we have redstone, and here I have a simple circuit, as you can see, which takes an input here and just proxies the signal to all of these. So I didn't have to use diodes here, which would take up slightly more space and look ugly, I guess. The question is, at what level do we want this to turn off at? Let's put a bunch of coal in here. And you can see that it gets evenly distributed, except the last two, which aren't 3. So we have 4 in there, 4 in there, and 4 in there. This is now outputting 45 EU per tick. The power will be going up into the primary storage for now. And it will also be recharging some of these machines, presumably, which had been discharged. There are some extra cables. It's probably also recharging that. Okay, now we're gaining power, which is great. I also have some stored power in here, which we can put back into here for now so that we can get results a little quicker. Now, the reason why I'm using the comparator down here is because I want there to still be room for power in here when the system turns off, because it only stops the input of fuel. It is still going to have fuel in it from before, up to an entire stack per each of these. Now, I think these might be smart enough so that they will stop consuming items if they don't have anywhere to output heat into. So this will stop accepting kinetic energy if this buffer is full, and the generator in the middle here will stop accepting heat when it can't output any kinetic energy, and these will stop outputting heat, or they will stop burning fuel when they can't output any heat, and they have a small internal buffer. I'm not sure how much is lost, but I want this to be as efficient as possible and with as little loss as possible. So I want this to turn off the inputs when this is probably about halfway full, because that should be enough power left to burn through the rest of the fuel that is inside of here, because these don't transfer that quickly. Although I might have to lower that. I'm not like I said, I'm not sure how sensitive it needs to be. Maybe I should, ideally, I could just have it so that when it is not empty, it will output a redstone signal, which will turn off the input. And then when it empties, this system will start back up and generate more power. Because that means there is room in this MFE up here. But I'm not entirely sure what the best option is at the moment. We're still got a ways to go to fill that up. These are already done. I'm not sure how much more coal I have stored up. Got a bit at least, actually. Oh, exactly 1.5 stacks. I suppose we'll throw that in here. And again, that should be distributed evenly. So you have a similar increase here, so they should have been output in there, and these ducts will transfer it slowly over here. And there we go. We have 31 pieces of coal in each. And then we have 2 separate pieces waiting here. And that piece might be here for a while because it only checks for an entire stack. I don't think it will, if we get 2 here, it won't see that as enough because it checks every stack, as I explained earlier. But yeah, so now we should be generating a bunch of power. Now if I break this cable, this will stop outputting into here, of course, and will start filling up. And we should see that reflected in the comparator. Now it's going to, I'm pretty sure that this distance is way above half full. I guess we'll find out in a moment. You can see these burn through the fuel rather quickly. I think they are faster than a regular generator. They consume the fuel faster as well. They also output ash, which is another byproduct that we are going to need to get rid of, probably by hoppers. And I don't think it can't be used for anything. So we'll probably just put it into a recycler to produce scrap for later use. Unless we decide to, or figure out a use for it that we can add some recipes for. Which is something I've been pondering, but I haven't really thought of anything to use it for yet. Maybe we'll store it for now, and then potentially scrap it if we don't figure out a use for it. But yeah, so the system is up and running. I just need to tune the shut off, which will probably take some experimenting. And we have reached the end point of the episode about 4 minutes ago. So probably end the episode here. And maybe in the next one, we will be looking at setting up a nuclear reactor in EU mode. Will be most likely, because this is not our permanent base. So setting up a fluid reactor here would be a waste, I think. But we can set up an EU reactor to use as our primary power source for low drain, and then have this system as a backup. Actually, I think I might as well have this emit if partially filled. And then just not have that. Now, like I said, that means that it's still going to keep burning this fuel and fill this up. But the ducts are shut off. So if I take a bit of fuel from each of these, and we are working on overtime now, of course, and I put that here, they're going to get stuck in these ducts because these will output into these, but these will keep the items because they are being powered by this circuit, by this signal. So they're not going to output into this system until this is empty. Okay, looked like it stopped, but I don't know what that was about. But yes, so that will end the episode for real this time. And I will see you in the next one.